see the presentation?
Yeah, yeah, you can see.
Please go. Yeah, you can? All right. I have the Knox box here on this side, and I have a ventilator on this side, okay? And I have the presentation here. So we're going to do, let's see if I can just go back to the main screen here. To show you a little bit of what oh, okay. Okay. So we are going to learn. Well, I'm Claudia Quizon. I am the business development manager for Knoxbox Limited, and I have been working with the nitric oxide, inhaled nitric oxide therapy for over 15 years now. So during this period, we had installed many units around the world, but particularly this unit, Knoxbox I, has been in the market since 2013. Yes. So we have installations, as you know, in Vietnam, in Malaysia, in Taiwan, in Singapore, and over Europe, all over Latin America, and the United States as well. In fact, this is the only other nitric oxide machine, intelligent nitric oxide machine, with FDA approval, with approval for the United States. So what does this do? Well, first of all, the training is presented for healthcare professionals only, right? So I'm just going to give you a little disclaimer, just to say that the training that you are going to have here is actually designed for healthcare professionals or people who work in the healthcare. The content of this document is intended to provide general information only. Read always and refer to the Knoxbox I user's manual. So anything, if you have any questions, always refer to the technical guide or manual for clarification, because that is the official guidance. And the information contained here is offered to use by technical qualified personnel at their discretion and risk without warranty or any kind. Okay, so these are just disclaimers that we have to go through. So what we are going to see today on the agenda is what is inhaled nitric oxide therapy, Knoxbox I system overview, system setup, how to set it all up, how to set the dose, alarms, standby mode, connecting to ventilators, system features, zero calibration, manual bagging in emergency overrides, system shutdown, and troubleshooting. Okay, so those are the topics that we are going to hopefully see here today. Now, this is the type of presentation that we do for a step. It is important that anyone who is using the Knoxbox I to be trained on it and to be familiar with this device before putting it on a patient. Okay. So what is nitric oxide? Well, nitric oxide, also known as nitrogen. Just a second, I've got someone else. Just gonna get someone else. Okay, let's go again. So, as you know, here also known as a nitrogen dioxide or nitrogen monoxide, nitric oxide actually occurs naturally in the body and is important in many cellular activities. It has been given the Nobel Prize on Physiology or Medicine for 1998. Was awarded for the discoveries concerning nitric oxide as a short-lived. It lasts very, very shortly in the body. Endogenous produced gas that acts as a signaling molecule in the body, several times indicating inflammation. Nitric oxide must not be confused with nitrous oxide, which is N2O, an anesthetic that is very well known, and obviously a lot of times we talk about nitric oxide and people get confused with the anesthetic. So no, this is a different gas, has a different application, and the application is normally marketed towards the market authorization in each country. So there is a regulatory body that indicates what is the application for it locally in each country. For example, in the US, is used for over preterm, over 34 weeks of gestational age, and with certain conditions, for example, pulmonary hypertension. In Europe, has other applications as well for pediatric and adults, but in the United States is only for neonatal. Okay. So normally, just to put it in a different perspective, nitric oxide is used when there is hypertension of the lungs. So when lungs cannot get oxygen correctly. So what it does, what nitric oxide does, is to relax or vasodilates the veins to allow oxygen to flow better. This is what happens normally when premature babies are born with certain conditions. So they have constrictions of the blood vessels, which produces a hypertension or pulmonary hypertension or lung hypertension. I think problems with this. Let me see if I can. There you go. Just a second. I'm just going to skip a couple of slides because we don't sell, well, we're going through the inhalation and administration. Back here. Inhaled nitric oxide delivery systems, you might find in Vietnam some delivery systems that are not intelligent, what we call intelligent, which are synchronized with the ventilation to produce a sync of the delivery as well. So our device is different. Our device synchronizes, I'm going to show you here, a non-intelligent device will deliver gas. This is the patient breathing, and the gas is delivered constantly. So even when the patient doesn't need the gas, it will be delivered. Our device, the Knoxbox I, is a different system. Our device synchronizes with the breath, the patient's breath or the ventilator flow to just administer, just supply the gas when needed, right? Nothing else. So you can see that the breathing is advantageous because if the gas is delivered during the exhalation, there could be what they call the bolus or accumulation of gas on the exhale breath. So this is not needed, and it could clinically is not very good. That's why now all or most of the hospitals in the world are trying to use intelligent or synchronized systems like the Knoxbox Eye.
Oh, sorry. I have my leader can go meeting, and you send him
You have
mail. Mail.
sorry. Sorry, I couldn't understand.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
Maybe you can write the question. If you write the question, it might be better. Okay, I will carry on in the meantime. So, the Knoxbox system is what we call a closed loop delivery monitoring system, right? What is a closed loop? It means the monitor and the delivery are in communication all the time. And this makes up for a very good accuracy that we have on this device, making that if the monitor is capturing that the dose is not correct, the the supply of the gas will be adjusted automatically to always give the target dose. So it's always in communication, making that a closed communication or closed loop. This it has monitor and delivery, monitor and the delivery in one system. It's easy to use. It's efficient delivery of inhaled nitric oxide because of this closed loop. It's compact weight, so you can remove this from the trolley. It's quick and easy to purge, so there is no accumulation in the gas when we switch the unit off. It has a backup mode, so if in the event of any failure, there is also a backup mode which allows the unit to be used in constant or mechanical mode. And it has an alarm history and downloadable logs. So anything that happens on the device gets stored in the memory, and we can download that information. Okay. Then we will have the step-by-step guide, which takes the user through the detail step by step how to switch it on, how to connect, and etc. And then we will have skipped system test, which will be the main features will be just one moment. Hi. Just take a seat. We have already started, but you're welcome to. I'm training distributors in Vietnam, so I'm going step by step. Not sure how you're going to take this, but it's just um, how to use the unit, how to set it up, and etc. So it might be it's not a presentation like with the main features. It's going to be it's a little bit more step by step. Hope you don't get bored. Right. So as you can see here now, we have the four. I don't know if you can see on the screen, but we have the four options. So we have the system calibration information, which is the main in the main top bit, and it will show you when the calibration, which calibration um, is displayed, the last calibration, and the date when the calibration is due again. And here are the options to go ahead and make the calibration by pressing those setting buttons. In this case, with this unit will have to be calibrated again only on the 26th of May, so we are good to go. Again, it is best not to use the unit if it's not calibrated. We always recommend calibration before using. And then you have the step-by-step guide, which allows users who are not so familiar with using this unit frequently. They have to be trained, but sometimes they're not using frequently. So it guides them how to set it up and how to use it step by step. And we will go ahead with this option today. The other option is the skip to system test, which allows users to go straight into the what I call simulation of a patient, which is when the unit tests itself running with the NOx flow, with the gas, and etc., to make sure that everything is working correctly. Then you have the skip to dose, which is used mainly in cases when the patient needs to go in an emergency to the treatment, and there is no time to do the system tests and etc. So we really skip to dosing the patient. We don't recommend this, but in some cases it's better to dose the patient than to not have the treatment started straight away. So it's a question that the hospital will have to take responsibility for. And we do have something on the screen that allows them to choose that, and they understand that they are taking the risk. To avoid having to go to skip to those, we do have, and we are going to we are going to see another mode that is called the standby mode, which allows the hospital to have a unit tested, or calibrated, tested, all set up to when a patient comes, it goes straight into connecting the patient, having the peace in mind that it has already been tested and the simulation has gone through. So we do recommend this standby mode to be used frequently, because you can set the unit up and it stays in standby mode for 7 days, meaning that in any time, 3 o'clock in the morning, if the patient comes, is ready to go. And it takes seconds to connect to the patient. So this is something that we really recommend. And also when you are presenting to a doctor, doctors don't like to wait. They don't have patience to wait for things to be tested to make sure that they are working well and etc. They want to see the action straight away. So we always recommend when you are doing a demo that you start on standby mode, because then it will show them the part that they are interested in nothing else. Normally, all these tests are done by the biomedical engineers anyway. And talking about biomedical engineers, we have the last option of the screen, which is the service engineer screen, where you enter to change some settings and calibrations and etc. Okay. So we are going to use today the step-by-step guide. Something that is important is that we know that the device has been properly maintained before, and the device is clean, free from damage. Always have a look if there is any damage that you can visually see on the device. The water trap on the side is empty and is ready to be used with another patient. And all single-use consumables, what we call consumables, which come in packs like this, are thrown away from the previous patient. So everything we're going to use with the patient has to be new and has to be single use. Right. So to start a therapy or to start with a unit, what we need is a Knoxbox system test kit, which comes in a pack like this. Okay. So in here we will have a corrugated tubing. We will have a Knox flow. We have a sample line, and we have a couple of other connectors that will allow me to do the system test or simulation. So all of these connections and an oxygen line with a connector already. They come separately. You just have to put them together. It's very easy. Just go like this and put them together. So this will all connect to simulate a patient being treated. Then we will have a Knox kit, one of these. Every hospital uses different inspiratory connections or limbs or consumables to connect their patients. So we have normally they have four different sizes: 10, 12, 15, and 22. We have bags of 10, 12, 15, and 22 with everything they need to connect the patient. So everything is in this bag. That's why you use everything in here, and when you finish with the patient, this is thrown away or disposed of according to the hospital's regulation. Okay. We also need 1 or 2 cylinders of nitric oxide. I only have one here to show just for the presentation, but like I said, we always recommend the use of 2 cylinders. Because one of the main characteristics of this unit is that has an automatic cylinder switch over. And so when one cylinder gets empty, it automatically goes to the second one. And it's very important, this, because if a cylinder gets empty at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday or a Sunday when there is no other cylinder, or the gas company is not able to provide another cylinder, the patient can suffer the consequences. So this will allow a much longer time for the patient to have the therapy, and it will not allow interruption of the therapy, which could be disastrous for it. But for the purpose of our demo today, I only have one cylinder. Okay. Additional items will be the portable environmental monitors. We have one for NO and another one for NO2. So this is to reassure we don't have the NO is to reassure we don't have any leakage from the cylinder, and the NO2 is to reassure staff there are no high levels of nitric dioxide in the ambient, which are also harmful. So these stay on the side of the device, and we always recommend it to have it on as they are now. We can also have a manual bagging circuit for the purpose of demonstration, right? For when we are bagging patient. And 22 millimeter one-way valve to use with the high frequency ventilator. I don't have a high frequency ventilator, I just have a CPAP here. But if you're using a high frequency ventilator, we need to use this in most cases. Right. So if a calibration is overdue, again, when at least one of the calibrations is overdue, this is the screen that it's going to appear, and it will say some calibration items are overdue. Using the system will overdue calibrations may lead to serious injury or death. Press back to return and to do the calibration, or next to ignore this warning and continue. So it's up to the user, the responsibility of using the device on a patient without having a calibration. Okay, so it brings us to the main screen again. The main thing, one of the main points you have to have before we starting or using the device when we are going to do the system test is to make sure that the dial is up to the intelligent mode. Having it on the side will mean that it is on manual mode or backup mode. So as it says here, to use the intelligent mode synchronous flow, the mode selection valve must be placed in the vertical position, the green. If there are problems with the Knoxbox I system, such as screen damage or the battery is discharged, then there is a fully mechanical backup mode, meaning that we don't even need electricity here. It will just flow a gas as if it was a regulator only. And then you can put it on horizontal position indicated by the red, which can also be used when manually bagging the patient, which is something we're going to see in a minute as well. So to carry on, and as you can see, every single step is on the screen as well. So just reading the screen, it will take you to the next screen. Ensure mode selection valve is set to intelligent. We go ahead. Here is telling us two things. One, so you can see how step by step is. It's telling us to lock the system so it doesn't run away anywhere, right? And this is also important. You don't want patients to be disconnected. But it's telling us to choose one or two cylinders. The first thing we're going to do is to check cylinder pressure. So I need to make sure that I'm selecting one or two cylinders according to what I have here. I only have one, so I will choose one. Again, it is not recommended. We have to choose, or the recommendation is always to choose two. The next step will be to choose the concentration. Normally, the system is already set to the concentration that the hospital is using, so there is no there are no mistakes or misusage. You set it up normally as the service center. The device works with many concentrations from 100 to 1,000. However, it cannot be mix matched. So the cylinder has to be correct to the matching of the device. And this is an important step. You have to, and this is just to remind you that the device is logged to be used with 1,000 ppm here in this unit. And I just have to make sure that my cylinder matches, which it does. Yeah? If it doesn't match, you have to go back to the system, to the engineer page and change that correctly. So we check the supply and we go, we press next on the screen. Now it's telling me, again, I'm only using here the screen to go step by step. Telling me to check the regulator valves. The regulator that we use is a fully compatible regulator with the nitric oxide. It's a device in itself. It's also a class 2B. And is one of the selling points of the device, because as you can see, is a two-stage regulator. It regulates from 200 bar going down to 4 bar, which is what the unit is using. And it's very compact, and all wetted parts are compatible with nitric oxide. It's stainless steel everywhere. And the other advantage is that you don't need to use, and you don't have to use any tools. You just adjust it by hand. It's very easy to adjust. Now, one of the things that you have to just make sure is that there is no damage on the regulator before you use it, and the O-ring is attached to it. Otherwise, you will have a leakage, right? So it's all in order. We carry on. Only use the approved regulators. Anything else that is not approved might damage the device. So I go and tighten firmly the regulator. Just by hand is fine. No tools to be used. Once this is done, we carry on, press next. And we are going to connect the supply line at the back of the device. So this is the supply line. It has all the connections that we need for the cylinder and the device. As you can see, we have numbers on the trolleys here. It's just to guide you to connect cylinder 1 to port 1 at the back. I'm going to twist the device in a minute. But this is just a way for people not to get confused and to guide them a little bit more on which cylinder you are using. So at the back of the device, you have the cylinder. So I'm connecting the line to the cylinder, attaching correctly. And here you have port 1 and 2. This is my port 1, so I'm connecting the device to port 1. There you go. It's nice and secure. Turning back here. So now, slowly open the cylinder valve, right? I'm gonna open the nitric oxide gas, and I'm going to see if fully open valve on cylinder 1, the gauge is reading should be more than 20 bar. So yes, it is a lot more than 20 bar. It is not recommended to use the device if it's less than 20 bar. We will have a problem if we do that. We will have not enough pressure to start the therapy. So if it's in the red zone, replace the cylinder. So now what we are going to do is a regulator. It's a pressure test, which the device does automatically. It just takes a little bit. It's just detecting if we have 4 bar of pressure and if it's detecting that pressure. So it's telling me here, yes. So everything is correct. It has detected the pressure. Now it's asking me to, while the nitric oxide cylinder is open, record the pressure displayed on the regulator gauge and close the cylinder valve. Wait for 30 seconds to see if the pressure will be decreasing. So I'm going to close it here. The pressure stays in place. So we are good to go. It means that I have enough gas, that the line is detecting the gas, so I'm good to go. All right. If we have a second cylinder, we do the same procedure. As we don't, we are going to just carry on. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we're going to talk about the NOx flow. Every patient kit, the 10, 12, 15, or 22 millimeter, has a set of consumables with it, and it will display on a picture on the pack. So you have a NOx flow, sample line, a set of connections, a filter, and a syringe as well. Although we are going to go towards a system test, the testing that we do to make sure the unit is working correctly. And although we do have a NOx flow in the system test kit, normally what we do, if we are having a patient, is to use some of the consumables that we are going to be using on the patients. Why? Because we want to know if they are working correctly, right? So everything that we use on the patient needs to be working. So in this case, I'm going to take the NOx flow and take the thing that we use here. I'm going to take the NOx flow from what I'm going to really use. So I'm taking this one from the 15, just pretend. The NOx flow is a vital part of the device. It's a sensor to use with the device, which detects the flow of the ventilator. So if you take the NOx flow apart, you have 3 lines here. The 2 slimmer lines are detecting the flow of the ventilator, so it can synchronize like we saw at the beginning of this presentation. So it's detecting on one side, on the other, and then the 3rd line is providing the nitric oxide gas, is actually dosing the patient, right? So two detection lines, one dose line. This is connected to the side of the device. And again, it will detect the flow of the ventilation to make sure that it's dosing correctly. So we will be removing the NOx flow from the pack. And we will screw. There are two different connections. This is for the dosing line, which we would connect this way. As you can see, it's just a normal lure lock connection, so it's just screwing. And this side, which is comprised of two lines, sorry, and it connects correctly this way. Okay. So we have our flow detection connected, or NOx flow. So one part that is very, very important, just to make sure that the O-rings of these connections are there, because otherwise you will not have a successful system test. System test will fail. So it's very important that you have the O-rings in there, like it shows here. Okay. And the other very important part of this is to connect the green line, as I connected here on the top bit, not at the bottom. The connection can prevent you from that, but you may, sometimes people really push this connection forward and it can break. But the green line is always on top. So that's very important. So once this is done, the other part of the connection will be the sample line. So we will unwrap the patient sample line and twist the lower lock into the sample, the water trap. So here I have the sample line. Here is the water trap, and I simply connect the sample line, sorry, as it is. There you go. We also have on the patient kit, like I said, we have a filter. This is important so moisture doesn't go inside the device. So we are protecting the device from any kind of moisture, right? And to connect this, simply attach it at the back until it goes click, and then there is a green part with a lower lock, and you just rotate until the filter is in place. I think it's difficult to see from there how the connection is done. I think it's a bit too small, but it's this one. So to unlock, there is a little, let's call it button here. You press it up and you disconnect the filter. There is also an O-ring here, which goes inside. So again, press it. And rotate the lower lock until it's in place. if you want to sit here to see better, it's fine, huh? Maybe you can't see very well there. Okay, so we are seeing all of this. System test will simulate a connection to the inspiratory limb of the ventilator, which is this one. Connect the loose end of the sample line into the sample point of the system test kit. So again, we are going to see a simulation now, as if it was with the patient. Okay. One important point, when you connect the Knox flow, the arrow should also always point to the patient, always, right? So the flow is correct. Then the flow of the ventilator or oxygen goes into the back, is detected, and the dose is going towards the patient. This is very important. So what is this saying to me? Push and click the lock, the twin line connector, which we did. Connect the sample line, connect the filter. We've done all of that. As you can see, everything is on the screen. All you have to do is follow it. Select the ventilator adapter Knox kits to match the patient circuit. We have that here already. Okay. I think is the first. So I've got here the connection, which I took from the Knox kit. And then you can connect the loose end of the sample line into the sample point of the system test kit, which is this one, right? So we connect the sample line into the patient side. So you can imagine this, the patient will be on this side, and I have to connect the Knox flow on this side. So connect the Knox flow sensor to the opposite end of the system test kit with the green directional arrow pointing towards the sample line. So where's my Knox flow? As we have here. Always the arrow going towards the patient. So this is making what it shows on the screen. I'm making the exact same design like this. Okay? Right now, we have to, so this is the point at which the skip to system test option on the home screen will start. So if I have on the home screen, I think is the third point, I'll press there, and this is when we are going to start, is to start the simulation before we put it on the patient. These tests are mandatory to verify that the system is functioning properly. And what it's doing is, well, I'll show you in a minute what it's going to be doing then. So what we are going to do is to connect to an oxygen point, right? We need to have oxygen. We need to have the oxygen flowing from the device. So we will have to open the cylinder valve, which were closed during the leak test, connect to 100% oxygen supply, and you have two options. You have either the wall outlet, which we don't have here, but we do have a cylinder of oxygen at the back. At the back here, I have a cylinder of oxygen. So I'm going to connect to this. And we are going to connect the opposite end of the oxygen line, the O2 line, just this, to the system test and do the simulation. How do I connect the oxygen? With an oxygen hose. Now, it is important for you in Vietnam to let me know every time you place an order what connection, this connection, you are going to use. Because the connection to the device is always the same. It's called NIST connection, N-I-S-T. And so I will connect it to the back here. And it's always the same. But this connection, the other side, might be different because this connects to wall outlets. In some countries, this is regulated. I think in the US, for example, it is regulated. They only have one type of connection, and actually the hose has to be green. But in other countries, it's not regulated, or is different, or has different regulations where they can use 2 or 3 types of oxygen connections. So I need to know what the hospital is using so it connects to the wall outlet over there, okay? In certain ways, the hospitals already have this oxygen hose, so we don't need to do it. Just make sure that they can connect to the NIST connection at the back. Right, so now I have to connect the device here at the back. And following again the screen. Oops. I thought I had one more. There. So following the screen and following the step by step, I'm going to connect a source of oxygen to as we can imagine, to a imaginary patient, which will be here, okay? So oxygen flowing from here, and this oxygen will come from the NOx mixer. So I will open the NOx mixer. I will open the oxygen. Make sure this is correct. I will choose 10 liters per minute. Make sure everything is correctly connected. And now I'm going to press next. And the simulation will start. So what I'm going to do, or what the unit is doing, is it has a target number. of 10 ppm dosage of NO, 0 of NO2, and 95% of oxygen. This is what it's trying to achieve. So we are now waiting for it to actually achieve that. And this will be exactly the same as dosing a patient with 10 ppm of nitric oxide gas. Actually going to open the window here a little bit. So if and what we are doing, the objective of this is to have 3 green ticks, which will indicate that everything is working as it should be. So what I'm doing here is making sure the NOx flow is working correctly, is detecting the gas and detecting in a good way. The 3 cells, 3 electrochemical cells within the unit are working and detecting and monitoring the gases, the 3 different gases, correctly as well. All the consumables are correctly working. Any alarm that might trigger will really be triggered. So testing everything before the unit is put on a patient. And again, you can do this before, way before you put the unit on a patient, you connect it to a patient, and you can do this and put the unit on a standby mode. Yeah, I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So this can be done, I don't know, every Monday morning, and have the unit ready for the whole week if a patient comes on that week. Yeah, you don't use gas, you don't use anything. All you have to do is have the unit plugged into the mains, electricity, and this way you can have a unit fully ready, tested, to connect in seconds when a patient comes through. Can take up to 5 minutes. So at this point, you can, if you're showing this to a doctor, they're not gonna like this step. It's always best to put it to demo on a standby mode where they can actually dose the patient and do what they are there to do, right? This is normally for biomedical engineers. Right, as you can see, we have now the 3 ticks, meaning that everything is correct, everything is fully working. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect everything, okay? So close the O2 supply and disconnect the system test kit from NOx flow. I'm closing the gas, closing the oxygen supply, disconnecting from the unit. I'm going to disconnect the whole system, put it back in the bag. The system test kit comes with the device. Every device has one of these. And you can reuse, because this doesn't come into contact with the patient, so you can reuse it. And actually, the NOx flow that we have here is normally used to do the pump calibration. So you can reuse this NOx flow, right? Like I said, it didn't come into contact with the patient. If you test the NOx flow that comes in contact with patient, of course, you cannot reuse that. You have to dispose of it. But everything I've used here, I haven't put it on a patient, so I am going to put it back in the bag and leave it by the trolley. That's why this little pocket here was very handy. So once this is all disconnected, I disconnected the NOx flow, I removed all the kits. If you are using the unit with the patient, then you leave it connected. You leave everything connected because this is what you have tested and is working well. Leave it connected, and then you are going to connect to the patient straight away. Okay, but in this case, it's not. Disconnecting. Okay. So the NOx oxide system is ready to start the nitric oxide therapy or to place it on standby, which is what we are going to do now. So to place it on standby, there is a couple of things that you need to do. The NO2 dose, again, let me go back again. So we were in this system, we disconnect everything, disconnect the test circuit, and then we connect the system to the ventilator if we want to use it on the patient, right? So the system is ready for setting dose and alarms. Press for dose entry. So we're entering the dosing mode, which is this mode. So to enter the standby mode, we set the dose to 0. It will ask us, warning, setting the 0 ppm will stop the treatment. Is this what you want to do? And then you just confirm. And then confirm NO2 dose again. It will show you a set of alarms, which is automatically set with the device. And every time you change your, the doctor or the nurse changes the dose, those alarms will automatically be changed as well. If you're not happy with the parameters that you have already set, you can modify by clicking the little edit button, the little pen in here, and then you can edit according to what you need, right? But this is a very good safety feature because you know that you will not forget to set alarms when you change the dose, because you know so many things in the ICU. This is something that you don't have to worry about. It's already done there for you. So you're happy with the alarms, you just carry on. And it shows here that you are stopping treatment, and then you can accept or confirm by pressing the little tick, green tick. It will alarm, okay, because I don't have gas here. So the next thing you do, as you set the dose to 0, you turn off the cylinders, turn it all off, and remove and depressurize the hoses. This is an important phase because otherwise the unit will alarm. So you take it off, you depressurize. To depressurize the hose, there is a little pin at the back here. You just press the hose towards the pin. You will hear the gas flowing until you don't hear anything anymore, and you just leave the hose disconnected at the back So, know those again. This is all the steps that we've done. And this is what you are going to have. Okay. Now, what we did here is set the device. We tested the device. We make sure everything is working. We connected the consumables that the patient is going to use if you want to. But we make sure that the unit is fully functioning, and now we are putting it on a standby for whenever a patient comes through. So you have 7 days to use this machine. If after the 7 days it is not used, then you have to, we recommend doing the system test again, right? Because there are fluctuations in the electrochemical cells. They might react, and we have to make sure that the unit is working before we put it on a patient. Another point is that when you leave it in standby mode, the Knoxbox will continue to request a sensor zero calibration every 24 hours. So it will alarm, asking you to calibrate with the zero. And all you have to do is press the button and it calibrates itself, nothing else. However, one trick that you can do is if the zero calibration alarms, I don't know, at 3 o'clock in the morning, normally it will always alarm at 3 o'clock in the morning. So what we recommend, so it doesn't disturb anybody, is that you manually do one calibration, zero calibration, I don't know, 9 a.m. So it doesn't keep alarming at odd hours. Yeah, it will alarm at a normal 9 o'clock a.m. when everybody's there and doing their rounds. Okay, so to connect to a ventilator, we refer to the Knoxbox I and Knox Mixer user manual and technical guide for schematics, because every ventilator is different. We have different ventilators, different connections, different settings within the bags that we are offering. So we recommend that you use the guide, the technical guide for those connections. We're trying to put together a ventilator connections pictures, so it's easier to identify. But the schematics give you a good idea of how to connect to those ventilators. So first of all, you select the correct size of a circuit or adapter to the circuit that we are going to use. We're going to use this, which I think I took it from the 10 millimeter or the 15, I don't remember that. But it's the right size. I measured it. Select the correct size adapter for the inspiratory link of the patient circuit and connect the sample line behind the Y piece. Right, so here we have a baby patient, you can see. We normally recommend a connection of at least 30 centimeters before the Y piece, so we don't have any backlogs or any issues with the mixing of the gases. Right, so I connected my adapter here. Then connect the loose end of the sample line to the female lower lock port on the adapter. I have my connection here. I'm just going to use the sample line from here. So you get the sample line, Connect to the adapter. Connect the upstream end of the NOx flow sensor upstream of the humidifier on the inspiratory beam tubing. And to help achieve the best performance, we connect the NOx flow sensor approximately 0.7 to 1.3 meter from the sample point, right? So if we can read here, we are going to be connecting here, which will allow us the whole of this size. And what we are doing here is just allowing time for the gases to mix, because we are introducing a new gas to the inspiratory limb of the patient. We are introducing NO to oxygen. So they have to mix. They have to have time to mix to achieve the best, let's say, performance. And that is what I'm going to do. To do this, you normally need what comes with the packs. You will need one of these, this adapter, okay? Because we are going to introduce gas in the inspiratory limb of the patient. So once this is done, the NOx flow has already to be connected to the device. This is a typical ICU ventilator setup, right? So we have the ventilator on this side. Here is the inspiratory limb. The NOx flow always pointing towards the patient, the flow of the patient. So the connections are correct on this side. It is connected before the humidifier, allowing enough time or enough space for gases to mix. Then a sample is taken from the connections before the whitepiece and before going to the patient, of course, which will give us what we call the real-time reading or monitoring of those three gases. And sometimes one of the questions doctors who are using this device for the first time ask is why, if we have a ventilator, why do we have to monitor oxygen again? And the answer is because we are introducing a new gas to that setting. So we need to make sure that this, which is the point where it's closer to what the patient is reading or breathing, it is a real-time reading of what they are receiving, right? What we are supplying to the patient. So this is why. Okay. So once I have my NOx flow connected, my ventilator connected, my sample light connected, using the keypad, we can connect to, let's say let me go to the keypad at this point. On the screen, you have two sides or areas. This is the monitoring area, and this is the settings area. On this side, we are going to see the monitoring of the three gases, right, on top. And on the bottom bit, left, you have the NO dose. So the dose that you want to give to the patient will be changed in this part of the device. So you can actually put, let's say, 10 ppm. Okay. Again, confirm the NO dose. It will show you alarms. At this point, we need to actually connect the gas to the port, correct port again. Open the valve. Then he will ask me again, what NO dose are you sure you want to give 10 ppm to the patient? Yes, I'm sure. I'll confirm. And he will now detect the gas and flow to the patient and give me a reading of 10 ppm. Right? So this is the way that you connect the device, and this is the way that you are dosing the patient. It will have time to adjust a little bit, but that connection is done. So once the patient is, once you finish with the patient, and I'm not going to go into more details yet because we're going to have a break. Once you connect everything and the patient is being dosed and you finish with the patient, all you have to do is change the dose to whatever you are changing to, from 10 to 5, and keep decreasing until you take the patient out of the therapy. Once the therapy is off, you will go to 0. You will go to 0, and then you close you close your gas. You disconnect the patient, and you follow the procedures like switching off the machine, right? Following all the procedures to make sure that everything is disposed of, everything is disconnected and, let's say, clean, to be able to use it with another patient. It will show me here, for example, part where you have to ensure that you connect the syringe and you remove all the moisture from the water trap. So this syringe, you connect it, or you screw it in this part of the water trap, and then you remove the moisture. Okay. Once you finish with the device, you can unscrew the water trap, like here, and with the wet wipes that we just provided, what the hospital has, you can clean it thoroughly and put it back. Just make sure that everything is ready for the next patient. So again, following the screen, the step by step, the unit will purge itself. It will be ready, shutting down and making sure that all the tests again are done for the unit to power off and be ready for the next patient. Now remember, the unit always has to go on the electricity, on the mains, even when it's in storage, yeah, because it has an internal battery and that battery needs to be always connected to the mains. Okay, so let's have a little 15 minutes pause before we go to the second part of the training. Do you have any questions? Any questions at this point? You can write it down.
Các bạn có ai có câu hỏi gì thì cứ đặt câu hỏi cho chị ấy.
You can write it down.
Đấy, Phúc đọc tài liệu ở trong cái user manual rồi đấy, thì xem có cái vấn đề gì thì có hỏi chị.
About the Knoxbox O2 sensor and node sensor and sensor and O2 and the pump kit. Yes, we have it in stock. It takes about the lead time for orders is about 4 weeks. Yeah, so you just have to send the PO and we can get it ready for you. Okay.
Các bạn có ai có câu hỏi gì không hỏi chị ấy?
Yes, I can do that, no problem.
Okay, Claudia, please send to me the document. Medical team of Vietnam.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll come back in a minute, okay?
Okay.
I'll be back in a minute. A little bit boring for you, right? That's good. I'm not set up before. It's better when it's a presentation. Presentation is a good. Okay, shall we start? We start again, okay? I hope you can see the screen. Bless you. So, couple of important points here. Like I said, the top level, it's a real-time reading of NO, NO2, and O2. The alarm thresholds below the readings. To change an individual alarm, simply press the respective pencils here, or arrows, I think it says here, respective button, right, above the alarm value, which are those, and mute the alarms. There's a mute symbol there. You can press that to mute it, and it will last about 2 minutes. At the bottom level, you have the NO dose. To edit, you just press the pencil to change the nitric oxide dose, and alarms will be reset to align with the new dose. Like I said, this is automatic. Cylinder status, you have the cylinder status empty or with a concentration reminder as well. And here is an important part, which is the treatment time, which is this part here, okay, this treatment time. And you have two indications here, the current dose time and the elapsed treatment time. Elapsed treatment time is the same as total treatment time. So is the total hours that the patient has been treated for inhaled nitric oxide. And the top bit, which is the current dose, is every time you change the dose to the patient, that time will change as well. Why is this helpful? Because when you are removing the patient from the therapy, normally you do that on phases. You go from for example, 20 ppm to 15, 10, 5, 4, 1, 2, etc. Right? Going decreasing until you remove the patient from the therapy. Because sometimes patients get dependent on the gas, so you have to do it bit by bit. And the current dose time will help the health professional to check if the treatment by reducing it is working and how long the patient is reacting with each dose. So this is a very good feature of the unit. Okay, so the alarms are automatically muted for the first 30 seconds after a dose change. On some circuit configurations, the readings can take up to 3 minutes to stabilize. I was setting it up again to show you other features, and it takes a couple of minutes for the unit to go down to 10 ppm, which is my target. This is the target, this is what is reading. Look how nicely and accurately is reading. 10 and 10. I'm not having much luck with this today. Okay, going back to the screen, you have NO high alarm, the date here on the side, NO2 high alarm. Of course, the NO is our treatment, so we need to make sure that we have two alarms, the low dose and the high dose, so we know what's going on when dosing the patient. But the NO2 alarm, as NO2, we don't want NO2 in this treatment. So the lower it gets, the better. We don't need low alarm. We only need high alarm for that. We just need to be indicated if the patient is receiving too much NO2 on the circuit. O2 alarm, of course, we need to make sure that it has enough oxygen. So O2 is very important. And like I said before, I'm not breathing oxygen here. So, O2 alarm is there to indicate if we have a low O2. And it is important to have this alarm in real time rather than coming from the ventilator because, like I said, we are introducing a new gas. Battery status on the side, actually on battery. Now it's connected. See here. And the current time in hours. Alarm settings can be muted. You have the status as no alarm, active alarm, and muted alarm on each one of these. Like I said, time on current dose, time on treatment, settings of cylinder 1 and 2. If the 2 are connected, the 2 will be there. And the alarms on the screen. The other thing you have on the device is two more screens at the back of this, right? And this is what we need to see here. So the second screen will show us the alarms. I press here, it will show me the last alarms that have occurred. It will only show about 5 on the screen, but you can scroll it down and see some more. The alarms screen display the most recent 20 alarm conditions in a scrollable. So 5 immediately and then other 15 on a scrollable list. I think it's a little bit more actually on the screen. I think we can see about 6. Once the alarm is resolved, that time is recorded next to the entry. Okay. And any unresolved alarms are displayed at the top of the list. We have high priority alarms, which are displayed in red, and medium priority alarms are displayed in orange. The date and time when the alarm occurred and resolved are also displayed here. You can see the time, date, and when it was resolved. The up and down arrows on the right-hand side allow the operator to scroll through the alarm history. The alarm information is automatically cleared from the screen when the Knoxbox Eye system is turned off. However, it is not cleared from the machine. So you can still download that information by downloading the what we call the logs. There is a USB port at the back of the device here. And with the USB stick, you can download the information, okay, and send it on an email to us, for example. It is very useful for us to understand, for example, if the unit is not working correctly, this can help us identify what the issue is. So the settings screen, which is the next one, allows operator to, 1, change the system language. So if you want to speak Spanish, you change the unit to Spanish and it will tell you in Spanish what those settings are. But unfortunately, we don't have Vietnamese on here. We have only English in this case. but there is a set of other languages that are commonly spoken in here. Perform a sensor 0. Right, so access the manual override system, which is used for emergency backup and bagging. Lock the screen, adjust alarm volumes, and adjust the screen brightness. You can access all of that through the settings. So the system screen lock, so all you have to do is lock, and then to unlock, you just press the key and the arrow, and then you unlock. Why we do this? Because if anybody comes and cleans, we don't want the settings to be adjusted in an incorrect way, right? So, sorry. So it's for the safety of the patient, really. So this is how easy it is to do the locking and unlocking. The 0 calibration is automatically performed when powering the Knoxbox I system. So it's one of the tests that is done at the switching on the machine. But during use, the Knoxbox I system provides an on-screen reminder once every 24 hours, like I said before, so to perform the 0 calibration test. Start the 0 calibration test from the setting screens just by pressing 0, sensor 0. Just follow the arrows, and it will perform the calibration itself. We don't have to do anything. At this point, the 0 calibration can be performed without interruption. So there is no interruption on the nitric oxide therapy. However, the monitoring side is going to be disabled for about 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, so just have to make sure that you understand that. But that doesn't really make any big impact on the therapy itself. Why is it doing that? It's just making sure the parameters of each sensor are correct. Okay, it's like a self-cleaning of the sensors. That's why the monitoring is not working at that time. So it can take up to 2 minutes. Once we do that, we are going to see some ticks on the unit, just beside each reading, and we are good to go or ready to go. So what we are going to see now is the manual override or manual bagging system and emergency backup. Okay. When do we do this? Manual override or emergency backup is used, of course, when there is a problem with the device. It can be a power cut or any component that did not perform correctly during the use. So we want to make sure that this therapy is not interrupted. It is, we have to make sure that therapy is not interrupted. And the only way to do this is to provide a different system, which is our emergency backup, meaning that the patient will be dosed on a manual way, on a complete mechanic way, and on a constant flow. Now, we use this only in very small time or in times when there is interruption, of course, but just in time to allow us to change the device, right? We don't want to use this mode on a continuous treatment. It's just during a period where the devices need to be changed. And a good working machine will be provided to the patient. This is one of the reasons why we always recommend our distributors to have backup units or other units to be used or deployed to hospitals when things like that happen. I think you have a couple of units in Vietnam We provide long units here as well, but of course, the transit time between here and other countries are a lot longer. So we always recommend that you make sure you have a unit ready to go for any eventuality in hospitals in your market. So here we have all the ticks. The zero calibration has taken effect and has been performed and performed well. So now the zeroing is successful. We go back to the monitoring side. And here we have a couple of things that we have to take advantage to explain. This unit is a separate unit from the devices. It's a blender. It blends oxygen and nitric oxide, right? So nitric oxide will be delivered during manual mode through here. This is our mode selection valve, which if it goes up, it's connected to intelligent delivery, meaning that it will synchronize with the ventilator. But if it's connected to the side or twisted to the side, turned to the side, it will work with manual override and manual bagging. So when in emergency mode, like I said, your manual override, nitric oxide will be delivered through this side, through the NOx, this module, which is called NOx mixer. So the manual override calculator can be accessible from the settings screen, and is used to assist the doctor, the operator, when using the emergency override function. Using the clicking here, we have using the up and down arrows, the operator can select the minute volume supplied by the ventilator bagging or bagging system. So we have a ventilator. I was told we have about 6 liters per minute. So what I do, so what we are going to do here is to select a manual bagging of a patient. You have 2 different systems. Most commonly, we are using the first system, which is this one, this manual bagging. Because what happens is that I had a patient and I need to transport this patient to another unit or on an ambulance, for example. So I have to manually bag the patient, or I'm doing physio with the patient, so I have to just manually bag the patient with this ambubag or bagging system. This is called a self-inflating bag. Okay. So what I normally do, what the hospitals normally do, is select, is to calculate the NO dose using the lookup tables, right? I've got here the lookup tables. I normally connect it to a source of oxygen because we might not have the patient ventilated, so we have to connect it to a source of oxygen. I need to connect the manual bagging into the NOx mixer. Turn off the oxygen flow meter of the NOx mixer. Connect the NOx mixer system to a source of oxygen. Calculate the NO dose, which I'm going to have, which is normally people use 5 or 10 liters per minute. Calculate the NO dose, so I calculated here 10 And I'm going to give to this patient around 10 ppm. So I check here what the dose is and what the setting will be. And my setting, I am going to adjust it to this knob, and I'm going to choose 100. Okay, this will give me 10 ppms, which I'm going to manually back to the patient. So once I've done that, and I turn off the oxygen flow meter on the NOx mixer, connect the NOx mixer system to a source of oxygen, connect the manual bagging line to the outlet port of the NOx mixer. I will set the oxygen flow to the desired rate, which is normally, let me just open the oxygen here. Open the oxygen source. I will use 10 liters per minute, which is what I put here. Move the manual mode selection valve to horizontal. You just connect this, first of all, connect the hose and open the cylinder valve. It will alarm and connect a sample line from the patient. Connect the sample line from the patient circuit to the NOx box system. I'm going to connect the sample line in here. So I will monitor what I'm doing here. I am going to put this to manual mode, and I'm going to start bagging the patient. The system, it will show you that the system is now on manual mode. So I'm going to start bagging the patient here until this, which is my reading, goes up to 10. It takes a good performance of a nurse or a doctor to do this, right? So to reach 10 ppm here is not easy. But at least we are giving the patient some form of nitric oxide. I'll have to do it quicker to be able to bag the patient correctly. Once you finish, you switch the sample line back to the connections. Then you switch the manual mode back to intelligent delivery. Switch the NOx mixer off. Keep your bagging system in place, and the unit will go back to the intelligent delivery. It does take a couple of minutes until it adjusts. I don't think this procedure is very much used in Vietnam. In certain countries, I haven't seen this in Vietnam. But it's something that can be used when you're transporting patients or doing physios and etc. Now, the other mode that we are going to see is the emergency mode. So emergency backup, which is fairly similar. Again, you calculate, so we have a patient, everything is going well. Something happens with the unit, something is not right. We want to put the patient on emergency backup so we don't have an interruption of the therapy. So what we do is to come to the settings and calculate the NO dose using the lookup tables on the on-screen guide, which is this one. This is according to what the ventilator was doing. So if I have 6 liters per minute there, I'm going to select 6 liters per minute here as well. Make sure this is closed, right? Then if the patient during the break or the emergency was receiving, let's say, I don't know, 15 ppm, I choose here the dose that is approximate to that. And I go for 16.4. For that, I need to do my setting again, and I set this to 100. So I have 6 liters per minute, which comes from the ventilator. My dose is similar to what the patient was receiving. I'm setting correctly to 100. And what I need to do is attach the emergency backup kit, which also comes, with your Knoxbox I, right? We do recommend you have a few of these hand. You don't want to have an emergency and not have a kit for that. And then you will attach this, which is an oxygen hose with a little connector, like a lure connector here. This actually comes separately. You have to connect it yourself. So you connect it in this port, and you connect the lure to the NO dosing line. Again, because when this is on a mechanic mode or emergency mode, the NO will come from here, not from there. So we need to allow this to connect to the rest of the NOx flow. Okay? Pay attention that we have not disconnected the patient in any case. So we disconnect the NO dose line from the Knoxbox I system, attach the NOx kit EMER, the emergency kit, and then move the manual, the unit to manual mode selection valve to the horizontal position. And an alarm will go here to say the system is now delivering in manual override mode. Intelligent delivery will resume when the switch is reset. You can switch that. And so we will have a reading soon, hopefully, of 10, I said 16 ppm. So it does take a little bit of time to adjust itself, but it does adjust after a while. And when you finish with the system, then you just remove the patient. You have another system set up. You remove the patient, and you just simply connect the NOx flow and the sample line into the new system and disconnect everything from here. Okay, so we're going to go back to the delivery so I don't have an alarm. Okay. Once everything is finished, just go back to, where's my little bag? My bag with Knox emergency kit. Put it all back as it was before. And you will resume in a little bit. We'll go back to the readings that we wanted. So really, this is it for the manual bagging and emergency backup. Nothing else. No other procedures need to be done. Okay. So to finish again the therapy, let me see what we are doing next. You have on the technical guide the dose calculation charts, just in case you don't have access to the device itself when you are on emergency backup. Those calculation charts are on the technical guide. You can actually take a print and leave it on the trolley, so it's readily available. And then the system shutdown. For the shutdown, you just turn off the Knoxbox system at the back, like I did before, and just follow the arrows, making sure that everything is disconnected, everything is clean for the next patient. Closing all the valves, closing the supply. Despressurizing the hoses. Disconnecting everything. Oh, it is important to note that to disconnect the Knox flow, there is a little button here as well. You just press towards the top and remove it. And never take it from the lines. Always hold it at the Knox flow connection itself. So disconnect the Knox flow, remove it from the patient, and dispose of it correctly according to the regulations. Pump line, everything off. So next patient comes and we start all over again. Valves, disconnect. The unit will purge itself. It's already doing that. System will power off quickly. Unscrew everything, dispose of everything, and it's ready to power off. Okay. So just to finish off a little bit, the alarm priorities that we have, like I said, is high and medium. This is at the back of your technical guide, so you can refer to it always when you have an issue. But the high alarm, it's a critical problem detected and condition poses immediate threat to patient's health. So it has to be resolved immediately. Okay. Like I said, the notifications and the alarms are all in there with the possible calls, recommended action. This is all in your technical guide. Okay. For the next training, we can go through some of this troubleshooting. And the next training, I will also ask, we normally ask the distributor to do the presentation to us, to do the training to us, as if you were doing it to a doctor, okay? So we can go through all of this on the next one. any questions? You can write it down on your chat, the chat box. Do you have any questions, Jennifer? I'm gonna have to ask you my chair back. Thank you. So I'm gonna have to. It might be. I don't know if things make sense to you. I don't know how, if you have done any training. Is this the first time you see this device?
I've seen the devices, but I've seen it.
Okay.
I've gone to the service center and watched the calibration.
Mm-hmm.
At the same.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, thank you. Thank you very much. Bye bye.